Biology Chapter 18, Theory Video 8, Species Diversity. Uh, the species diversity of a certain ecosystem is the number of species in a community. That is going to be identified as the species richness. So when you take species richness into account, species diversity is what we are talking about. That means if there are 25 different number of species in a community, then it is 25. The richness is 25. You put a number. So when you take that into account, you get species diversity. So that means then also this actually includes the evenness of the abundance of the different species. Evenness means how evenly distributed they are. If one species overpowers all the others, if their numbers are very much higher than the others, then the species diversity is going to be a little lesser. So if they are evenly distributed, then the number of different species is going to be different as well. That means it would be greater. So if more evenly the number of organisms distributed among the different species, the greater would be the species diversity. So here there are two different ecosystems taken into account, and the different types of tree species and their relative numbers are considered. So as you can see, in ecosystem 1 they are more evenly distributed, but on the other they are, from 65 to 4 it ranges. So these two ecosystems have the same species richness, but ecosystem 1 is going to have a higher diversity because of the species evenness is greater than ecosystem 2. So that is how we identify this thing. Now when you take a coral reef, it has a very high biodiversity because it provides many different ecological niches, which means it provides different opportunities for species to evolve and be present. So that is exploited or that is used by different species, and that results in these different species bringing in uh, more diversity to the ecosystem. Uh, when there is a high species diversity, that ecosystem is said to be more stable than the limited diversity ecosystem, because highly diverse ecosystems have better resilience. That is, they are able to resist any changes that come from the non-living factors or even living factors. They will be able to rebound really effectively. Uh, if there are ecosystems dominated by one or two species, even a small change will affect them a lot. Now, if you take the natural pine forests in Florida and temperate forests in Canada, they are dominated by a few species. So, if one thing changes, the entire thing will collapse because the biodiversity is less, and because they are affected by it extremely at a higher level of uh, at a higher level. The tropics, that is where we live. In the tropics, these are the important centers for biodiversity, because the living conditions are not too extreme. It is not too cold and it is not too hot also. Then there is light and high intensity of the high intensity of light and temperature throughout the year. So as a result, these are the optimal conditions for life to exist. So then, as a result, because the birds and mammals and even the plants, they do not have to adapt to keeping warm. Uh, they will actually, they will diversify, and there is a better chance for their survival as well. So the numbers won't will give us evidence for this. In Central America, there are about 1,500 species of bird, but only 300 in Northwest Territories of Canada, where it is really cold. Right? Let's write down a note on this. Species diversity is all the species in an ecosystem taken into account in relation to species richness. Two ecosystems would have the same species richness if the same species are found in both of them. However, if their numbers are evenly distributed in one of them, its biodiversity is greater than the other. Highly diverse ecosystems are able to resist changes in environmental factors. However, if ecosystems dominated by one or two species, it is at high risk of being disturbed when environmental factors come into play. Now we are going to discuss about genetic diversity. This is the diversity. So genetic will obviously will refer to alleles. Um, so before we do that, let's we will do that in the next video.